Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pink Wednesdays podcast, where every Wednesday we wear pink and talk about our lives and recent events. Well, some people wear pink.
New Yorkers wear black, and then Julia wears pink for all of us. We have had one glass of wine already. We had to catch up first. Also, I had to get unnervous because I'm not used to being on camera. I'm usually behind the camera.
This is Laura Vogel, my best friend.
Okay, wait. So I've seen you in New York like 1,000 times for so much time since we met in 2019. But I haven't been to London since before the pandemic.
Yeah, so Laura's from New York.
Shocking, I know.
Shocking, couldn't tell.
I was in a taxi the other day, like a proper British black lorry.
cab.
Black cab? Lorry?
No, black cab.
Okay.
Lorry is a truck.
Oh, great. I was in a black cab and I was just like, hello, I'm going to this place. Thank you. And then I thanked him. And I'm overly polite sometimes. And so, I thanked him, blah, blah, blah. I sit down. I'm like, oh, I'm actually going to stop at the Tesco so you can just go forward a little bit. He said, where are you from? And I said, America. And he's like, where in America? I said, New York. And he's like, I like North Carolina better. Your accent's a bit aggressive. You should tone it down.
Oh my God, how rude.
And I was like, wait a minute. I just was really kindly asking where to go. Please take me to the place. Thank you for letting me into your taxi. And he's like, your accent's a bit aggressive. You should tone it down.
Kim.
I mean, it was very funny. But then I was in an Uber last night and he was like, your accent's really nice. I was like, oh, thank you. I was told recently by another driver that it was aggressive.
Your accent is great. I love it. I would much rather sound like you than like me.
Why? You sound so posh.
Posh?
I mean, not when you say it like that.
Posh! But I don't sound English. I sound Brazilian. That's not very posh.
You don't sound English?
You think I sound English?
Yeah.
How do I sound English? The English people don't think I sound English.
Really?
No, they think I sound foreign.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's why people are so nice to me in America.
Yeah, they totally think you're British.
Any British person watching this will be like,
no.
No.
You'll be like, Julia is not British. All right, well, we're celebrating me being in London for the first time. Julia got some beautiful champagne. Thank you so much.
Ooh. I think Fazana got this one as a present.
Fazana got some beautiful champagne.
Thank you,
so
Fazana.
much. Oh, and now you're going to learn how I met Fazana, which was never in person, but only on the phone during a traumatic jail bailout. Wishing you a Merry Christmas 2022 from Julia.
From when I filmed the torture music video. I got all the girls' glasses.
Oh, yeah. Sophie said that in your podcast episode.
Oh, you watch it.
I do watch the podcast. Cheers, queers.
Cheers, queers.
Of course I watch. Well, that's actually how we met. Whoops.
That is how we met. Do you want to tell them?
All right. So, couple of disclaimers.
Oh, okay.
I used to be a lawyer. I'm a social media brand manager, which means that I run social media strategy and production for celebrities, influencers in the area of comedy, music, culinary, a bunch of different stuff. Anyway, so I produce that content and then I have a team that does web design, creative direction, editing, and Julia is one of my main editors, especially for music stuff and also cooking stuff. So I've worked in this industry since 2011. Anyway, so that's what I do. And so I'm chronically online. I'm also queer. I don't know how to define my identity. I identify as queer. I would say if you looked at the number of people I've slept with, it's more women than men. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the relationships I've had and the number of years, it's more men than women. But also all of the men that I've dated are very queer. Anyway, I'm queer. Cheers. Cheers, queers.
Cheers, queers.
Peer pressuring you into drinking. I have drank Julia under the table a lot because... Fun fact, Julia has really excellent taste in alcohol, but is a lightweight. It's going to be a long podcast, I feel like. We have a lot to talk about, and I can't shut up.
I think it's great. I like long podcasts.
Okay, great.
We have so much.
Welcome.
We've been talking for hours before we even started, and we haven't even scratched the surface. We have so much to catch up.
We do, and we're going to have to do more episodes. I feel like we'll do another episode when I'm back for your wedding, where I will be.
The bridesmaid. No, not bridesmaid. Maid of honor.
You're not having any bridesmaids because I am too much. I'm just going to take up all the space of the maid of honor and all the bridesmaids. All right, so the disclaimer was, oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm so distracted by Beverly being cute.
She's the most beautiful thing on the planet, isn't she?
I also have ADD. That's my neurospiciness. ADD and OCD. Yeah.
I think I might have some neurospiciness this.
Oh, you think?
And you think is it obvious? I don't know what it is though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it like obvious
Said
like
with
that?
love, but yeah, there's some processing stuff that's a little there's a reason we relate, is I guess what I'm saying.
What do you think I am? I mean, I know you're not supposed to
I
diagnose
mean, you're
people,
not supposed to diagnose your friends, but if I was going to diagnose my friend, there's a little bit of like the perseveration OCD, like the obsessive thinking.
That makes sense, yeah.
You're like seen, called out. I mean, yeah, no, I have OCD, and like it manifests in like, repetitive habits and like, but not really like the obsessive thinking. I feel like you have like the obsessiveness where you like can't let go of the thought.
Oh, yes. Or situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the actual disclaimer that I went to 15 minutes ago, like literally. I met you and Eileen at the same time, but based on how we've connected and also personal choices that both of you have made, I would say that you and I are much closer than I am with Eileen. That's not to throw shade. I love Eileen very much and believe that she deserves all the happiness in the world. There will be some shade. Otherwise known as truth telling, but I feel like, okay, so one of the reasons why I wanted to come on, I never do stuff in front of the camera. I work behind the camera. I produce. I'm very rarely in front of the camera. One of the reasons I wanted to come in front of the camera was because I feel like my comments have not always been heard by the populace. I do comment on your videos. So I feel like, while I comment on your stuff, you don't want to throw, like Eileen is your family and she's always going to be your family, and you take care of her and you will always take care of each other in a very like mutually respectful and loving way. And you co-parent this sleeping beauty, and like your family. And so I'm not going to talk shit, but I am going to be very honest in a way that I don't think that you have been as honest.
Yeah.
Because you want to protect her all the time.
Yeah.
So like you've told the truth in a number of different times, and especially that one video.
I said a few things in that one video, which is not live, by the way. Like I love, well, all of the relationship stuff I made private, but it's out there on the internet. I said some things, but that didn't even scratch the surface because I didn't want to
throw her under the bus.
Yeah, but still people thought I threw her under the bus with the things I said.
If y'all knew the crap that this one has put up with over the past years. People have all of these misassumptions. Like some people assume that you're with older people because you want to have stuff paid for. I have literally never in my life met anyone that is harder working than you, and like
Thank you.
All you did for years was pay for tons of random shit that Eileen, like you paid for the apartment, you paid for all of your bills, you paid for her health stuff, you paid for everything you needed in the apartment, and then you also paid her credit card debt when she was like, I want to buy 47 guitars. 47 is an exaggeration, but not by much. It was so insane to see people call you a gold digger when literally all you have done is work your ass off from the time that you were 18 with like, would you come here with $50 maybe? Worked your ass off and getting degrees and paying for your own degrees and like saving money and paying for the whole wedding by yourself, like paying for everything. And then for people to call you a gold digger is so ridiculous because it's so completely the opposite. If anything, like Eileen misled you to think that she had any degree of money when she has none, which is not a criticism. Like, I don't care if you don't have any money, just don't lie about it.
Yeah, she never gave me the impression that she had money, but when we met,
she gave you the impression that she was self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Which she is not. She relies on the government for money and she relies on credit cards. She's not self-sufficient. She doesn't work and she's choosing not to work. And that's fine. I understand. She's like, I'm a certain age. I don't feel like I should have to work. You and I don't have that sensibility. I think that until we're dead, we will be working. There's a different degree of work ethic. And Eileen does not feel as though she should have to work. And I understand that she has that feeling. And I feel I have a very different approach to life. I feel like everyone should feel as though they have to work, not because we should be defined by what we do, but instead because we all have to contribute as much as we can. And to say, I'm just going to take money from the government and put money on credit cards because I don't feel like I should have to do a job that is beneath me. Like I have a hard time understanding that.
I took it lightly for a really long time because of her age, because I thought, she's retired. But
because you assumed that she worked previously.
Yeah. Well, when we met, all
right, so let's talk about, we're just, before we go there, let's talk about how we actually met.
Okay.
Okay, so I was, suggested your video on YouTube, and I was like, oh, this is She's interesting. Anyway, so I went down a rabbit hole, and it was also during like the wedding time, which was like a time of like peak fascinating. Like, it wasn't drama, but it was like
Very personal.
you're very open. And I think that like you've seen like the backlash of that for sure, of being like extremely open on the internet, but like it really like pulled me in, you know?
There are many things. I wouldn't say I regret it because I've learned a lot from it, and I think I'm a better person now for it. But there are many things I wouldn't do again,
Mm-hmm.
like
Like life.
exposing, like life, like exposing myself so much online. It has
Mm-hmm.
been very bad for my mental health. I would definitely not do that again. But I was coming from a place, and that's what a lot of people don't understand, because a lot of people look at my stuff, and maybe because I'm like pink and girly and
Mm-hmm.
like influencer, people think, oh my god, she's like so fame hungry and
No, you were just lonely. You
calculated.
came here by yourself and you had no friends
was
and
just-
you were fucking lonely. And so you were like, I need to talk to people on the internet because I don't have anybody else to talk to.
Literally, that's all I had, and I know it's now, I know it's unhealthy, but at the time I thought that was love, and that was the only love I had, and I cling on to it, and I would literally do anything for it at the time. And when I saw, people being interested, I just poured everything into it, and to my own detriment. In some, I mean, in some ways, it was good because
Mhm.
obviously it was good for business.
And also you did meet people
Yeah,
that
very
like
special
that you
people.
genuinely had connections with. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that that content, because you were so open, it brought in a lot of hate.
Mm-hmm.
It also brought in a lot of like people that were there for the spectacle of it. But it also brought in people that, were genuinely interested in connecting with you, and it helped you create actual friendships. But the downside of really being that open is that, first of all, when you give people that access, they expect that access forever. And then when shit goes wrong, all you want to do is put it in a positive light. You, at the beginning, had the widest lens. And like the lens was wide and you just showed them everything because everything was really good for a while. Like when you were meeting Eileen and falling in love and planning the wedding, like you yourself had this wide lens and you weren't seeing the things off to the periphery that may have been red flags or warning signs or other things. It was just the good stuff.
Yeah.
And then as time went on and we met in New York and there were some negative things, it was like, okay, well, I'm just going to make the lens a little bit smaller and only focus on the positive things and leave the negative things to the side. But as your life got harder, that lens got smaller and smaller and smaller. So the percentage of yourself that you were sharing got smaller and smaller, and it was only the good stuff. Then it became so small that it felt kind of, and this is just me remembering what you were talking about, but like it seemed to me as though it felt fake because you were only focusing on such a small percentage of your life that it felt like lying and it felt like putting on a show, and it made you feel messed up every time you had to record because you were like, I'm only focusing on this small part of it and I'm leaving out so much.
Yeah. Well, most of my marriage was not great. So we were very in love and everything when we got married in 2019. Then we went to America. All that stuff happened, I think.
Which we'll talk about in just a moment.
Yeah. Then we got back and we were still okay for a little bit. But I would say from 2020 onwards, we weren't even intimate with each other, even though we lived together and we were a couple, but we weren't even intimate with each other. So it was a bit like...
And not just physically intimate, like emotionally intimate.
Yeah.
Like you would have different sleeping schedules. You would have different eating schedules. Like you would have totally different lives in this tiny little apartment right next to each other. So
yeah,
it was so lonely. You were paying everything for, and you were trying to be close with, and you were trying to engage with, and you were trying to... I mean, there would be times that you would call me and be like, I asked her to do this with me. I wanted to really like try. I wanted to do this romantic night, or I wanted to do this thing, or I asked her to hold this boundary or whatever it was, and she just wasn't interested in engaging. As the trust was betrayed over and over again, and when I say that, I mean like Eileen betrayed your trust over and over again, starting with what happened in America. But as she, made promises and wouldn't keep them, and little things like, I'll get up in the morning and we'll do this thing together, or I won't spend more money on this credit card. Like little things and big things. As she would make these promises and then not fulfill them, especially at a time when you were trapped together in this apartment during the pandemic. It was heartbreaking for you because you were literally working every day, making videos, creating content online, going to graduate school, paying the bills for the entire family, you and Eileen, before the pets even existed. And she wouldn't even do a little thing like take the garbage out. It was heartbreaking to watch you in that situation. All right, so back up. I went to VidCon in July of 2019 with one of my clients. And, as I have many times before, and I think after that was when I started getting recommended your videos. So we all have these like YouTube deep dives that we do. My best friend Jen calls them like research projects. But yeah, I had this like Julia and Eileen research project moment where I just like watched every single video you had ever put out. Anyway, so I saw that you guys were posting after your wedding that you were coming to New York. And so I sent both you and Eileen DMs and I was like, hey, I'm a social media manager. I create content in the queer space. Would love to see you guys when you're in New York. And so we set up a brunch for like the second day that you were going to be here. We set it up around Union Square because at the time I was working on Hannah Gadsby's show, Douglas, which was at the Union Square Theater. So I was like, oh, fantastic. Like I'll meet you for brunch and then I'll go to the show. And so you were flying in on Thursday, August 8th. We have checked the receipts recently before this conversation while Julia drove me here. And so Thursday you fly in. I know nothing. Friday, right before I'm going to the show in Union Square in the evening, and I had another friend staying with me, I get kind of a panicked message from Julia being like, I have to cancel brunch. Eileen's been arrested and everything is kind of a mess. And I was like, I'm sorry, what now? And as a former lawyer, I was like, and also just being, I like helping people. I like being of help and being useful and like, it's kind of my brand. And
you're literally an angel. Being helpful is an understatement.
I like being helpful. And so when she said that, I was like, holy burgers. Like, okay, what are we going to do? Like, let's figure this out. And Julia was rightfully freaking out because you're in your 20s, which like you're an adult and you're responsible and you're paying for all your shit. But at the same time, I think that when emergencies happen when you're older, you've been through stuff before. So you're like, it'll be fine. You have a degree of calm. Like, I don't know. I remember being trapped in an elevator in Hungary when I was 19 and like just fully losing my shit. I don't think I would now because I'm like, it'll work out, but like there's a certain degree of like, even if you're an adult and you're competent, it has a larger emotional impact when you're younger because you have less proof that things are going to work out. Anyway, so I learned that the story was, and you can correct me if any of this is untrue.
Okay.
You fly here. You've never been to the US before. Yeah. Eileen was born and raised here. Her family is here. She lived in New York for years and years and LA and all over. And so you're coming to see America, to see New York, and to meet some of Eileen's family for the first time. You land, and as you're going through customs and passport clearance and whatever, Eileen's passport gets flagged, and she gets arrested, and you don't know why. You just see your wife taken away in handcuffs.
I had a rough idea. The thing is, Eileen, sometimes she can say things in a way, it's not literally a lie.
It's just manipulative.
But it's worded in a way that makes it sound different from what it actually is, but without lying.
So she probably said something like, I have some issues around a rental car that I had from a few years ago. It's probably not a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly it. So to that, I thought,
sure.
Whatever. Yeah. And I thought she had been to the US a bunch of times because she said this issue was from 15 years ago. So I thought...
you thought that she had been in the US
I thought
during that time?
Yeah. When we were on the plane, she said something about, I'm a bit worried about this thing. Literally on the plane there. And I said, no, don't worry, it's a rental car. Like, when we get there, you just figure out how to pay it back. And I said, well, if you haven't had any problems before, when you arrived, why would you have any problems now? And then on the plane, she says to me, oh, no, that's actually the first time I'm going back to America since this happened 15 years ago.
Womp, womp, womp.
And I was like, what? So when we arrived at the airport, they separated us because I was taking like the immigrant queue.
Right.
And she was taking the American one.
Because just to be abundantly clear, you did not marry Eileen for UK citizenship. Your citizenship path was in progress before you ever met.
In fact, I have UK citizenship and she doesn't.
There you go.
And I did not get a green card, by the way, either.
No. The only way that Julia can work in the US is because I sponsored her O1 visa as a person of extreme ability.
So
or extraordinary ability.
Yeah,
It is extreme, but it's also extraordinary.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's how I lived in New York for a little bit. It's like a work visa, so I never had a green card. I'm literally
Julia never got any degree of citizenship, visa, or ability to work because of Eileen in any country. So every comment that was like, you're just going for the green card or whatever, I'm like, suck a dick.
just slightly xenophobic too.
Yeah, it's xenophobic, it's ageist, whatever. It's just shitty. And you never took the bait on that stuff and responded because you didn't want to get into those kinds of arguments. You clarified things in different videos for sure, but like you never took the bait and argued with people. I have argued with people in the comments.
Have you actually? Oh, Laura, I love you.
Especially when slightly drunk after the pub. And then in the morning, I'm like, why do I have all these notifications? Oh, I should probably delete that. So you're on the plane and you're slightly nervous, and then you land and they separate you.
Yeah.
So you're online, you're waiting to go into the country, and you're on like the I'm from Brazil, my passport means nothing area, and she's on the I'm American, I'm coming home area.
Yeah, so my line was a million times longer than hers. Yeah. So I was there forever. And for some reason, there was no signal either, so I couldn't message her while I was on this line.
It's almost like they do that on purpose.
Oh. Next thing I see is her getting through, because it was a really big room, but I could kind of see her from a distance. So next thing
and you're at JFK, right?
Newark. Where all nightmares are made.
Mm-hmm. Recently mine.
So I see her getting past, and I was like, oh, okay, she got through. Next thing I see, policewoman following her and her going into a room. So I was like, uh-oh.
Ruh-roh.
Then next thing, police officer comes over to me. I think he found me because I had pink hair, and she described me to him. And he's like, oh, okay, I'm going to get you through quicker because your wife has been arrested. And I was like, what? And he said, well, you know what this is about, right? And I said, well, oh, she told me she was late returning a rental car. Is that what that's about? And then he said something like,
that's not what's going on.
Just it. Yeah. So he gets me past immigration faster so I could go into this little airport jail area.
Holding room.
Yeah. So when I get in, Eileen is literally handcuffed, hands behind her back.
In like the zip tie handcuffs?
No, a proper metal handcuff.
Oh shit. Very Orange is the New Black.
And at the time, you need to picture that, like, obviously now I know everything's fine, but at the time I didn't know it was going to be fine. I was recently married, so madly in love with this woman. She was already in her 60s back then. So I thought, oh my god, what are these people doing handcuffing this 60-year-old lady who has only been late returning a rental car?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was outrageous, and I was crying. I thought the police was in the wrong and she was being mistreated, basically.
And in some ways, I do feel like the system is messed up that it got this far.
Yeah, it's not like she was going to punch someone, is it?
Correct. Yeah. She didn't really need to be handcuffed.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that I'm never going to take the side of the police.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. But also, it's way more serious than she led you to believe.
Yeah. But I didn't know that at the time. So I was crying, freaking out. And the police sort of lied to me to get me to calm down. And I can see that now. But they were like, she's going to be okay. We're just going to sort this out. She's going to have her phone. She's going to have her meds and everything. She's just going to be in this room. But you need to leave. So they helped me. They actually carried my bags out and everything because I was so nervous and crying.
Yeah, they were like, get the hell out of here, you crazy lady.
But then our friends who were picking me up, I didn't know you at the time.
So you had already planned to have Danny and Pam pick you up from the airport?
Yes. So they were
they had been at your wedding and they're your friends and yeah.
Yeah. So they were waiting outside and then they see Eileen being taken out, handcuffed and put into a police car and taken away before I even get to their car. So Eileen left before me even. Yeah. So when I get to the friends and they tell me that they saw Eileen being taken out, I freak out completely because I didn't think it was a proper arrest. I thought she was just going to be there, like sorting out whatever needed to be sorted out. You thought it was like
organizing some paperwork.
Yeah. And I mean, I was very, very naive. I think I was 24, 25. I don't know, not that young, but still, I was very naive with legal things. I didn't know.
Well, you had never been in trouble because you had always just followed the rules and you had never gone to law school and you had never taken any legal classes and you just believed that it was just like a paperwork thing.
Yeah, I didn't even know what a warrant was. That's stupid, but
it's not stupid. It's outside of your experience. I think that this is also a fault of our educational system in every country. And I'm learning this more like as I help friends navigate divorce and as I help them navigate other things like...
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have talked you up.
We, in Western capitalist societies in particular, blame ourselves for a lack of knowledge that isn't actually our fault. And so, so often people are like, you should have known better, or whatever. I think that that's really unfair because it's not like we learn any of this in school. We don't learn how to navigate the legal system in school. We don't learn about the stock market or credit or balancing a checkbook or balancing your accounts or debt or how any of that works in school. So while there is a degree of you must educate yourself and take on the personal responsibility of figuring out how the systems work in which you live, I also think that blaming yourself for not having experience and knowing what a warrant is when all you've done is follow the rules your whole life is not fair. You shouldn't beat yourself up for not being versed in it, especially at a young age. And it is life experience that teaches you these things. And also, I mean, Eileen is a loving, articulate, intelligent person. And so when she tells you something, it's very easy to just believe her. Even me now, it's very easy to just believe her. And then I have to kind of check myself and be like, wait a minute, is this bullshit? And like sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't, because I do believe that like it's coming from a disordered place of not being able to understand other people's perspectives and not being able to see outside of yourself. You know, I do really believe that Eileen has a personality disorder of some kind and that she also has a problem with debt the way that other people have a problem with alcohol or drugs or things like that, you know? And so I do not blame her for those things because I don't think that she has control over them, but I do hold her responsible for the harm that those actions have caused because once being made aware of those things and just based on having mutual friends that have known Eileen since she was in her 20s, she's been made aware of the negative repercussions that her inability to care for her mental health have had on other people in terms of finances and credit and logistics and all of those things for many, many years before she even met you. And so the fact that she put you into this position, I don't blame her for getting herself into the position. I blame her for putting you into the position of having to deal with it without fairly and accurately communicating what was going on. And I think that there's a difference there. You know, like I do feel like, and I know that Eileen will see this, you know, and I care about her and consider her a friend. And so I don't want to say anything that would ever hurt her, obviously. But I think she would totally agree that the position that she put you in was unfair and harmful.
Yeah. I've been very conscious of not trying not to hurt her feelings with putting things out there.
But at the same time, she's made a number of mistakes and she's done things that I think are, I wouldn't say unforgivable, but I would say unforgivable without reparative justice. And I don't feel like she's engaged in that process with you.
Yeah. We'll get back to the story in a second, but like I'm still friends with her.
There's a difference between being friends with her and being family.
Yeah.
I think friendship is something that you choose on a day-to-day basis. You choose to hang out, you choose to spend time, you choose to mutually show up for each other. Once someone is your family and you've chosen to accept them into your family, and by the way, like I don't have a lot of birth family. Most of my family is chosen family. And you are part of my chosen family.
You too.
And you know, I take that very seriously. And what that means is, for me, that means unconditional love. So that means if you hurt me, I will continue to be here for you, even if you don't take responsibility. What it doesn't mean is that I won't have boundaries. You know, I can choose to accept you as family and acknowledge that you're, you know, the harm of your behavior, but still protect myself. And I think that that's what we're working on with you and Eileen is like, she can be your family and you can choose to show up for her in certain ways, but where should your boundaries sit?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm struggling.
Stop giving her money.
Yeah.
Which is happening on a weekly basis.
It's small amounts, but it's the principle. She shouldn't get herself into the position of like ordering a million things on Amazon and then asking me to pay for her groceries.
How old is she?
I feel mean.
But this is why it's a problem. This is why I'm saying it's a psychological issue. It's an addiction. Eileen is a responsible adult who's intelligent. And I think that she has a psychological issue, a mental disability that makes her unable to appropriately account for funds and finances. And just like giving someone a little bit of cocaine or a little bit of heroin is enabling them, giving somebody 30, 40 pounds a week is enabling her addiction. And I don't think that she's going to fully address it until you cut it off. And by the way, this is from somebody that has also helped Eileen by letting her use my address for her taxes, by letting her use my address for credit cards. I did. Yeah. And when I moved, I didn't give Eileen my new address because I had to have that boundary. Because at first I was like, oh, she just needs it for these few things. She just needs it for this. She claimed my address on her taxes.
And then you kept getting 1,000,001 credit card bills.
even some of them get forwarded to me now. I moved 2 months ago.
To your new address?
To my new address, it's getting forwarded to me.
That's insane.
Because creditors are coming after her, but also, like, I mean, I know that she would never knowingly and purposefully put me into a negative position. She cares for me, I care for her. And the fact that she has, in some respects, I mean, the fact that she claimed my address on her taxes, my landlord was notified. Because I was
That's
renting my
crazy.
last apartment.
I remember that.
And my landlord was notified and was like, is there somebody living with you? What's going on?
I was mortified when you told me I was still married to her.
Yeah.
I was mortified.
And I was like, Eileen, you can file taxes as an American with your UK address. And she's like, oh, I didn't know. I just put yours. And I was like, you wouldn't talk to me before doing that?
No,
she just has no understanding of this. And that's why I think it's a disability. It's not a choice.
Yeah, but that was very wrong. I won't be shy when it comes to like something wrong being done to you. That was really wrong because you're being mild about it. Because she used your address, didn't ask you, and then you kept getting like so much mail every day from her. When I
got more mail for her than for me.
But
when you stayed with me, you even saw it
to a ridiculous degree. Because
I mean, 10, 15 pieces a day.
Yeah. Because when
I would get 1 or 2 things for me a day, and I would get 10 or 15 pieces of mail for her a day.
Yeah, because when you say like mail, people might think, oh, just one thing here and there. But when I stayed with you in New York,
a pile.
It was a pile a day of like
credit card offers, collection agencies.
Yeah, I feel so sorry because I almost feel responsible because I was married to her.
No, that was my choice.
And it wasn't your choice.
It was. I met both of you. No. I'm saying I met both of you at the same time, and being friends with Eileen and giving her my address and saying that she could use it for a couple of things was my choice. And she abused it and took advantage of it. But as I'm saying, I don't think that she took advantage of it out of an understanding of I'm going to take advantage of this and I'm going to use this to my advantage and I'm going to try to get credit and I'm going to try to do this and she really thought it was fine. And that's why I'm saying it's a mental problem.
Yeah.
Because she genuinely thinks it's not a problem. And when you explain it to her, she still can't quite grasp that it's an issue.
Yeah, her intentions are never bad.
No.
She's not a bad person. It's not like she intentionally thinks, I'm going to hurt or take advantage of that person. I really don't think that's the case. She's a sweet, loving person. But at the same time,
I think she has narcissistic personality disorder and literally cannot see outside of herself. She just can't do it. Her brain doesn't let her do it. So she chooses to be empathetic and she chooses to be kind and she chooses to be loving. But it's a choice. When she misses it, it's a neurological thing that she just can't control. And that's why I care about her and that's why she's my friend. Because if people chose to do some of the things that she did to you or to me, that's not a safe person who I would cut out of my life. But instead, it's someone who doesn't see the harm that she's causing and is unable to prevent herself from doing it. Like my dad, who's an alcoholic. When you tell them over and over and over again, when you do this, this is the result and this is the harm that you cause, they should be able to hear that and account for it and do better.
Yeah.
And her inability to do that is why I have had to create boundaries in our friendship and you had to get a divorce. So let's get back to the story. So you walk out and get in Danny and Pam's car, who are picking you up from the airport, and they have just seen Eileen taken away in a police car. And you just thought that she was sorting out some paperwork and then you realize that she's arrested.
Yeah. So because they haven't told me she was being arrested, I didn't know anything at all. Like I didn't know where she was being taken or how to contact her, like anything. So for the next, I would say 24 hours, but take that lightly because it's a bit blurry. It was very traumatic. And
it was about 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because I looked back at our text messages and stuff.
For about 24 hours, I didn't know where she was. And I was frantically calling all these places, calling different jails, calling different police stations, trying to find out where she was, and I couldn't find it. And I think, if I remember correctly, I only found her because at some point she had a call, and she called me. And then I found out that she was in a jail in New Jersey.
There are 3 main international airports in New York: JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark. All of those are New York airports, but Newark is technically across the river in New Jersey. And so when you landed, it was easy for Danny and Pam to pick you up because they live in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. So the warrant was in New York and she was arrested in New Jersey.
Was there a second warrant in New Jersey?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll get there. So I couldn't find her until she called me. Then I realized she was in jail. So I freaked out because I didn't know what to do.
And by the way, in jail, they took away her bra and she was in full jail. Orange is the new black jail.
Jail mugshot. They took everything. She didn't have a phone.
Some sleuths on the internet have found her mugshot.
It's my fault because I put it on a thumbnail.
I love that for you.
See, that's when I was talking about things that I wouldn't do again. That's one of the things I wouldn't
You might
do
not
again.
have put her mugshot on the thumbnail. Come on, it's pretty good. That's clickbait for real. Make that. I mean, like, listen, you had to pay back so much money.
In my defense, obviously it was wrong, shouldn't have done that. But in my defense, at that time, I posted that video to defend her because I thought the police had wrongly arrested her.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You were really in denial for a long time.
Yeah, very
You
long
really
time.
did not. You would not. I remember like
In-
driving to bail her out and you not accepting that she had done anything
Yeah,
wrong.
I might
I was
make
like,
it-
this bitch.
I
This
might make
bitch has
it-
done some crazy shit. And you're like, and I'm like, this other bitch is totally in denial. Look at her with her pink hair. She's like totally like pussy whipped by this woman who like did some shit. And we're gonna find out what this shit is.
Oh my god. I was like defending her so much in this video, saying like this happened, and I was like pretty much putting out there.
Well, you
to
did
show
like
how
a
wrong it
wrongful
was.
arrest. You made the video about being like a wrongful arrest.
Exactly, and all the comments are like, "Girl."
Girl. No, I'm sorry. All the comments are not like girl. All the comments are like girl. Girl. Wake up. So let me just lay out the timeline really specifically.
Okay.
Thursday, August 8th. You fly from the UK to the US. You find out on the flight that things may be more complicated than you expect. You land. She gets arrested. You go out and meet Danny and Pam. They take you back to their house in New Jersey.
No, I went to the hotel where we were staying.
Right. You get dropped off at the hotel. You stay overnight. In the meantime, Danny and Pam go back to New Jersey. They get you a lawyer.
Yeah, so I was freaking out, thinking, how am I going to get my wife out of jail? And then Danny and Pam say, we know this lawyer that is really good. They put me on the phone with this lawyer. And I start talking to him, and he says, well, I can give you a discount because you're friends with my friends. $7,000.
The discount is $7,000. And by the way, that's fair. This is a criminal case. She's in jail. Normally it would be like 15. I think they gave you a more than 50% discount.
It's fair for like American prices and everything, but me being a Brazilian girl who's 24 and just spent all her life savings on a wedding,
it was more money than you could imagine.
Yeah, I literally did not have it in the bank at all because I literally spent everything on the wedding.
Because you were supporting you and Eileen, and you spent everything you had on the wedding.
Yeah.
And traveling here.
Yeah, so I was like, I don't have it. Can I pay in installments? And he said, you can if you give me a deposit, because from my experience, like working with criminals, they don't pay back. And I was like, oh no, don't worry, we're not like that. This is a misunderstanding. She's not a criminal. And
I feel like I'm making a gif with my face. I have very low facial shielding.
I think I had to pay like a 3,000 or 4,000 down payment, which Danny lended me, which I'm forever grateful. And I paid her back like really quick as soon as I got money coming in from work. But anyway, she helped me so much with that. And then the rest I paid over the next few months.
Okay, so you have the lawyer, you talk to the lawyer, and then you realize that you have this brunch with me tomorrow. So you reach out for the first time and are like, this is what happened. And I go into the helping zone and I'm like, shit. So then I'm like, okay, well, we'll meet up. But I had to work the Hannah Gatsby show. So I was like, I'll meet you at your hotel after the show. So you land on Thursday. It all goes down on Thursday. Friday, you sleep a bit. You talk to the lawyer. You go into like fix it mode. You text me about not being able to do brunch on Saturday. This looks really wrong on the phone. Scrolling back to the beginning really just makes it feel like I'm jacking off the phone. I was like, hey there, this is Laura Vogel. I will let you know what I come up with soon. Hi, Laura. Thank you so much. His name is blank and his number is blank. That's the lawyer that you got. And then
that's the mugshot.
Let me make another call. Do you have more details on the charge? And then I got the...
Like what she did?
Yeah, I was like, well, you didn't respond. But I was like, do you have more details on the charge? I mean, like what she did. Yes, here's the information. The prosecutor sent my lawyer the docket number. She failed to appear in 2005. All right, sorry. I'm not going to scream into the mic. 2005! All right. She failed to appear at a Raymond in 2005, failed to return a rental car. And then you were like, my hotel's at 77th and Broadway. Late in the evening, I was like, hey there, just out of the show, still up for a drink, we'll head your way. So this is like 10 p.m. on that Friday. And then you tell me what hotel you're at. I'll be there in Parkton 30, parked and walking up, described what I looked like because we had never met. It's like red hair, blue shirt and jeans.
I remember what I was wearing when I met you. And I had been wearing it for days, I think, because of...
Trauma.
Yeah. It's like a long, kind of like a jumpsuit, but light pink and like no bra. Looking a bit crazy.
I just remember you being so frazzled. Well, because I had seen your polished videos and stuff and you were so frazzled. So then I meet you at your hotel room and it's this like cute tiny hotel, which by the way became a homeless shelter during COVID.
Did it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I dropped off like food there. And I was like,
Oh.
oh my God, the place of all of our collective trauma. And you had a bottle of Bailey's. And then at 3 a.m., I texted when I was leaving, but seriously, how is Bailey's that good? Bailey's has become like a thing in our friendship. When I was going through a time, Julia like mailed me Bailey's. And then I sent you a picture of Goose. That's my chihuahua. Very important. This is the picture of Goose.
Oh, Goose.
Okay, so you land on Thursday. She gets arrested. You go to the hotel. You stay overnight. You get the lawyer through Danny and Pam. They help you pay for the deposit to get him to take it on with the retainer. Then you call me, say that you're not going to be able to make brunch. I say I have to go to this show, but I'll call you after. I meet you after. We have Bailey's in your room. You cry. Tell me the whole story. We figure out a plan. The next morning, she's transferred from one jail to another because there wasn't just one warrant, there were two.
Yeah.
So the first warrant was because she had gotten a rental car and not returned it. And she thought that it would be fine to just return it late. She called and let them know, maybe, maybe not. But the problem was is that the credit card that she had on file kept on getting declined. Financial addiction issues. So normally, if you don't return a rental car on time, they just charge your credit card and it's fine. But because they couldn't charge her credit card and she wasn't in touch with them for so long, it came across as stealing the car.
Well, but she didn't just return it late, she abandoned it.
She didn't like bring it back to a place, she just like left it somewhere?
She left it
Not hard to
near the place, but she didn't come in. She just basically
She
abandoned
didn't
it.
want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because she knew that her credit card would be declined.
So I didn't, when she said to me on the way there that she was late returning a rental car, I literally thought she was a day late and she came in, returned it. But actually,
it was like 2 or 3 weeks.
It was a few weeks late and she abandoned it. So it was pretty much like stealing a car.
Right. So she rented a car, kept it for several weeks, 2 to 3 weeks longer than was booked. And then, knowing that her credit card that she had on file was going to be declined, she didn't bring it in and deal with it. She just left it near the place. And so it seemed like stealing the car. So instead of like a misdemeanor of not paying for something, it became grand theft auto.
I think it was unauthorized use.
No, I think that was the lease.
Ah, that was the other one. Yeah. Okay.
So then once Peter, the lawyer, we're not giving his last name, but once he sorted out that first warrant and was like, we're going to settle with the rental company, blah, 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 then it became clear that there was a second warrant, which she had never mentioned to Julia or any of us.
Yes. So she was about to be released from the first jail, which I didn't even know at the time that she was being released, but it was because the lawyer did his job.
The lawyer literally did the thing that you paid him for.
Yeah.
You were like, I'm hiring a lawyer to get my wife out of jail, figure out what's going on, and he did. From that first warrant.
Yes. So the funny thing was that the lawyer, when I first spoke to him, I was asking him, oh my God, is she going to have to do time for this? And
do time? Is she going to do hard time?
And he said, no, if it's just what you said, that she was just late returning a rental car, she won't. But from my experience with people who have committed crimes, there's usually always more crimes that they don't tell people about.
Yep. And I distinctly remember you on the phone with him in my car as we're driving, being like, oh no, there can't be anything else. It's just this.
Yeah, I was convinced.
3 minutes later.
Exactly. So the lawyer does his job. She's about to be released, but apparently they ran a check before you get released in case there's something else. Turns out there was another warrant that they hadn't checked before because it was the other one was a New York warrant, but she had also a warrant in New Jersey for leasing a car.
No, that's the New York one.
No, the New York was
the New York was the first one, and they just took her to a local jail because she landed in Newark.
Yes.
So she landed in Newark in New Jersey, and that's why they took her to a local jail, because even though the warrant was in New York, they held her in New Jersey because it was the closest thing to the airport. And then once Peter got her released on that warrant and had sorted that out-ish, then there was another warrant that was actually in New Jersey, so she got transferred to the Middlesex jail.
Yes.
That shit show.
That's exactly. While that was happening, I had no clue because Eileen probably couldn't call me that often. The lawyer didn't call me straight away. So I didn't know what was going on.
Well, the lawyer didn't really know what was going on because they literally were processing her out. So when you get released from jail, they process you out, which means they go through your paperwork. They acknowledge that you're leaving. You have to sign a bunch of stuff to say that you weren't abused or whatever. You get your shit back, like your phone, your wallet, and your keys and your bra. Right. So they process her out. And then as they're processing her out, running her paperwork, they just have to do a warrant check. And then they're like, oh, there's another warrant. So we're not just going to let you go. We're going to transfer you to these other people.
Yeah. And I only find out about this when I get a call from Eileen from a different jail.
Middlesex County Jail.
So that's how I find out there was a second warrant, and all the money I paid to the lawyer that should have worked.
Now you need more money.
So I was like, oh my God. And I said to
her, is that happening Saturday morning? So Thursday you land. I keep going through the timeline because it's confusing. Thursday you land. She gets arrested. Danny and Pam pick you up. They bring you to the hotel. She's in jail. She's in jail overnight. You hire the lawyer Friday morning. The lawyer gets her released. But then she's not actually released. There's another warrant. So then she gets put back in jail for a second night. I'm not sure if that was Friday night or Saturday morning, but then you and I meet Friday night. We drink the Baileys. Very important part of the story. The bonding happens. And then the next morning, you have a meet and greet that you were supposed to do together in Washington Square. But you go to the meet and greet by yourself because you're like, I got to work. I got to do this thing. I'm not going to let my fans down. Saturday morning, you were having trouble sleeping. And I was like, understandable, jet lag plus anxiety. And you're like, yes.
Oh my God, I just met you and I'm telling you I'm having trouble sleeping. The bonding was real.
It was real. The bonding was real. I mean, trauma bond, man.
So this whole time, while she was at the first jail, I kept calling the jail all the time because I was really worried. And also at the same time...
Annoying lesbian.
Because Eileen was like very distressed. There were a few things she wasn't happy with, and obviously nobody's happy in jail.
Nobody's happy in jail, but then now knowing Eileen and her being like, I'm not happy in a 3-star hotel, I need a 5-star hotel, like she really wasn't happy.
So I kept calling the jail, and it got to a point where they knew my voice, and they were like, oh, hi, Julia.
Yikes.
Yeah, so this morning, as I got up early, called them, and they said, oh, she has been transferred to...
Middlesex County Jail.
Oh, no, they didn't tell me.
They didn't say where she was being transferred to. They just said she was transferred.
Yes. So I assumed she had been transferred to New York because her first warrant, which was the only one I knew about at the time, was in New York. So I assumed she was transferred to New York. So I was calling jails in New York, trying to find out where she was, couldn't find it. Then I had this meet and greet. That was the main reason why we had gone to New York in the first place. I was meeting a bunch of people at the park. And I knew there were
like 60 people there.
Yeah. And there were people coming from different states.
Yeah.
That had spent money and everything to, not for the meet and greet because that was free.
No, but they had
to travel.
Right. You said that you were going to do this meet and greet.
Yeah.
And so people planned weeks in advance to get hotels, to take the train, to come in to meet you in the US, which is lovely. And so you weren't going to let down your fans. You were going to show up.
Exactly. So I was still going to go. So I posted a message online saying, Eileen is having some family problems. So she won't be able to make it, but I'll be there. And that's when people started researching and actually found out that she's been arrested. So I felt like I had to address it. While I'm getting ready for this meet and greet, Eileen calls me and
also,
tells me...
you're sobbing the whole time. I remember talking to you and you being like, I'm trying to put on eyelashes, but I'm crying too much. They won't stick.
Yes. Trying to do makeup. Eileen calls me. I find out that actually she's in another jail in...
Middlesex
County in New Jersey. Because there was another... warrant. I asked her, what is this warrant about? She says, I have no idea. I didn't know I had this warrant.
Her friend, who I know, knew what the warrant was about.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll bleep her name.
Yeah. Okay, so this is like a lesbian small circle. This is why, by the way, even like my friend who's a guy is like, you're like mostly a lesbian because even if you sleep with men half the time, like your whole community is gay. I'm like, yes.
Same.
Yeah, and he's like, also, he actually pegged it for me really well. Not actually, I mean metaphorically. He called me on it really well and was like, I'm like red now. I'm drunk. I'm red. No, he called me on it really well and was like, you can find something attractive about almost any woman. Like, we could go past, like, a woman living on the street, and you'd be like, oh, this part of her is hot. And he's like,
Same.
And only specific things about specific men do you find attractive. But when you do, you're really into it. And I'm like, yes.
Same.
Okay, so I'm kind of calling it, like, homo-flexible. Like, remember in the 90s when, like, hetero-flexible was, like, a thing for guys on Sex and the City?
Yeah.
I'm, like, homo-flexible. So it's
That's
like...
how I feel.
Yeah. Anyway, cut to...
Eileen's ex that you know.
Eileen's ex that we know. So, I have a ceramic studio with my best friend. She happens to be 20 years older than me. And she worked at a company years ago with this woman, lesbian, full, very obviously gay. She would love this description, right? Yeah, she would. Okay.
She's great.
She's great. So they were friends. And then when we opened the ceramic studio, she started coming to the studio with her hilariously younger girlfriend. And so we all became friends again, and then only made the connection that my business partner and best friend knew her from back in the day. And then also, they saw me on your YouTube channel and was like, wait a minute, you know Eileen.
Oh, I didn't realize that part.
That was the connection, because when this whole like arrest situation happened, I was very briefly, because was a part of, I mean, I drove you to the jail and we bailed her out together and I paid for part of it, whatever.
We'll get there.
But like, because I was involved, they saw me, and she's very private. So this older Eileen's ex, we're going to call her Schwendy. So Schwendy was a member of the studio and we were friends. And then she saw me in your vlog and was like, oh my God, you know Julia and Eileen? Eileen was my girlfriend. We lived together.
For years.
For years. In like the late 80s, early 90s. And she was like, she's lovely. I love her. But she's got a lot of issues, mostly around money. Did you know that she fucked up this like lease? And that's what the warrant was about.
Was that on an apartment lease? That's a different
No,
issue.
that was like the car. That was the car.
Because there was also an apartment thing.
Well, the apartment thing was that Schwendy had a rent-stabilized apartment in Stuytown. And when they broke up, she took the nicer apartment that they were actually living in and let Eileen stay in the Stuytown apartment. And was like, as long as you pay the rent, you can have this rent-stabilized apartment. I just want to make sure that you're good. But then they got into a car accident together. And Schwendy was just like, as long as they pay my medical expenses, I'm fine. And Eileen was like, I'm suing them. I want to take all the money. I want to have a settlement. And she got money. And instead of using that money to like live her life and take a good job that she had gotten in New York writing, which is what she said she wanted to do, she like went and traveled and like blew all of the money on travel and then hadn't paid the rent. And so lost Schwendy the rent stabilized apartment because she didn't pay the rent.
She didn't just not pay the rent. She sublet it while she was in London and then got caught.
I don't know the details, but it was sketchy. Just like everything that Eileen does with money, it's sketchy.
There was this other ex of Eileen that while this whole thing happened, I'm going to bleep her name.
Yep.
That message, not me, but when everything came out about Eileen being arrested, she messaged my friends, Danny and Pam, saying...
And me.
And you. She messaged you too.
Only later.
Oh, I didn't know about that. She's the one who had a falling out with Eileen and me when she came to the wedding, because I think she left early or something, and Eileen was offended because she left without saying bye. And at the time, because I didn't know the whole backstory, I agreed with Eileen, and I, had the falling out with this woman. But she's actually really lovely, and she was in the right in hindsight. But she messaged my friends to say, tell Julia to be careful, because when I was with Eileen, she got me into so much debt with credit cards and everything. And at that time, I thought, oh, she's just being hateful because we had a falling out. And my friends thought the same. But actually, she was looking out for me, and she's a lovely person.
I mean, the fact that both of Eileen's serious exes have connected with you and warned you about that. I mean, Schwendy was like, no, when Eileen was like traveling, she would call me and ask for money and I would send it to her and I shouldn't have, but like I couldn't say no. And it's like literally what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Which is like, it was small amounts and it was easy for me. And so I did it, but like it was just enabling somebody. All right. So in the morning of your meet and greet, you find out that she's in this other jail, but you don't know where she is.
Yes. So while I was getting ready and getting in the Uber and going to the meet and greet, I was on the phone sorting all these things out. And then I get to the meet and greet and, I was hugging everybody. But every 5 minutes, if you've been to the meet and greet, you remember, I was like, oh, sorry, I just need to take this call because it's an important family matter. And I was sorting this out. Then literally while I was at the meet and greet, we realized that she could be let out that day on bail. But obviously we had to pay the bail and it had to be cash.
The full amount doesn't have to be cash. It's a percentage.
Oh.
So if you can get a bond,
you
whatever.
remember the details so much better than me because I was so
Well, it's also just
out.
how it works. So we had to come up with a bunch of money. I forget. It was like $5,000.
Something like that.
It wasn't crazy.
But I didn't have it anyway.
But Julia didn't have it, especially after trying to pay the lawyer. And so she called Fazana.
Yeah.
And Fazana, who is Eileen's dear friend here in the UK.
Who has been a co-host on this podcast many times. You met her.
Yeah. Was like, I'm happy to pay it. But it was a Saturday, so she couldn't wire it. So I put up the money for these people I had met 48 hours prior. Not even. I had never even met Eileen. I met Eileen as we bailed her out of jail.
There was a lot of trust.
Well, I had Googled Fazana and I saw who she was and I saw her resume and she said, I'm wiring the money right now. And so she sent me proof of the wire to my account and it would hit on Monday. And so I was like, okay, I have proof that the wire has been sent. It's going to hit on Monday. Me putting the cash out now on Saturday is not a big deal. So it actually, yes, it was helpful, but it wasn't actually a risk.
But the fact is, most people would not do that for a stranger.
And so I was able to withdraw it in cash from the bank, take my friend Amber, who was visiting from out of town and was now being taken on this whole adventure, to pick you up from the meet and greet with the cash. And then your friend, Karen, who you had met that day, jumped in with us. It's me in the driver's seat, Amber in the passenger seat, you and Karen, and we drive to New Jersey. You in this over-the-top meet and greet outfit, because as you should, you're presenting for your fans. So we're going to jail.
It's so telling of like who I am as a person, because I might be wearing the craziest makeup, the craziest outfit, and like seeming like
and you're going through some shit.
I might be dying inside, which was the case. I was like so committed to like the work. I was like, I have to do this even though I'm dying inside and I'm in the background.
It's also not just work. It's you showing up for other people. You're like, people have made their plans and I'm not going to let them down. So I'm going to show up for them. Even though I'm terrified that my wife is in jail and I'm worried about this, you're like, I still have to show up for these people because they've shown up for me, which throws back to what we were talking about earlier about how like the reason you got on YouTube and the reason you were so open this whole time was because you were lonely and looking for community. And so these people it wasn't just work. It wasn't just I have to do my job. It wasn't just people expect me there so I have to show up. It was like, these are the people who have shown up for me online for so many years. I have to show up for them and I want to show up for them.
Yeah.
You wanted to. It wasn't obligation. You genuinely wanted to be there for them. And even in your moment of trauma, the thing that genuinely did make you feel better was showing up to meet these people that wanted to see you. Like, it did make you feel better.
Oh yeah, I cried.
To have this community there with them.
I cried so much at the meet and greet, and I remember like hugging the people, and they didn't necessarily know what was going on, but I was hugging the people and crying so much.
But I want the people, both who were there and who saw this online, to understand it wasn't you being callous and putting everything aside because you wanted to make money. It wasn't you feeling obligated to your followers and having to show up. It was genuinely the thing that would make you feel better in that moment than not showing up was showing up for the people who supported you for all of this time.
Oh, yeah.
And who were showing up and traveling there. So it was a degree of obligation, but it wasn't a work obligation. It was like a community chosen family like obligation.
100%, yeah.
That was really interesting to see because working with a bunch of these like YouTubers and whatever else for many years, I would expect the YouTuber to be like, it's my work obligation. I have to show up or they're going to unfollow me and say some shit online. It genuinely wasn't that. When I picked you up, you seemed to really have like an emotional experience with them that made you feel uplifted and better and more able to go and bail your wife out of jail. Okay, so I pick you up from the meet and greet and we drive to New Jersey with the money that Fazana had transferred to me but that I had pulled out of my account, and we go to bail out Eileen. And that's the moment that I met Eileen, was bailing her out of jail.
Insane.
I didn't realize how on brand it would be. I was like, this is a one-off.
Yeah, that's what I thought. There were many things about Eileen that I didn't know when we got married. Because we met on Tinder, and when we met, she said to me, I was 23 when we met. Quite naive for a 23-year-old.
But it's funny that you say that, because in some ways, you were exceptionally experienced, because you arrived here by yourself, and you started going to high school with people that were living with their parents, and you were living in a share house where people were non-consensually watching you shower. Like, you literally...
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
You literally show up from Brazil with like 50 pounds, and you got a room in a shared house, and you were showing up at essentially high school with people who were going home every night to their parents. And you were going home to not just a share house, but a share house where there wasn't a lock on the bathroom door and men would watch you shower non-consensually. And you were paying for that by selling churros on the street, wearing an insufficient number of layers in the winter months because you didn't know how cold it was here when you got here, and you didn't have the money to buy appropriate layers. So where your peers were going home to their parents, you were going home to an abusive situation where you were working in inhumane conditions to pay for yourself. So whenever you say you're naive, it doesn't ring true, because while you might not have known about some things, you, at a very young age, were taking care of yourself in a position that was not normal and not okay. And so you finished college and you passed your A levels and you got into university of your own accord, and you were able to stop selling churros because you were nannying, because by that point you had taught yourself English. Let's go there. And once you were in university, that's when you got into shared accommodation that was safer. That's when you got a job that was safer and more appropriate, nannying. That's when you started your YouTube channel. And that's how you were looking for community, because you met some people in high school and some in college, but for the most part, you were very shy, and so you were able to be yourself behind the camera. But literally, that's the thing, is like, when you say you're naive, I didn't live on my own when I was 18. I never had to do that shit.
Yeah, I suppose I really cling on to all the like love I could get at the time. And I mean, like, relationships that necessary, some not
The girlfriend that you lived with who cheated on you with her cousin?
Yeah. I've been in a few, not just the one with Eileen, but I've been in a few abusive, I suppose, relationships. Not physically, but like mentally.
Controlling.
Yeah, because I just felt so lonely. And the same thing with YouTube. I just cling on to any what I thought at the time was love that I could get. Yeah, and I know I exposed myself too much because of that.
But so these people that make
But that's
these
where
videos,
I was coming from.
But these people that make these videos criticizing you, that are like, she overshared and she got in these age gap relationships, it's coming at it from this place of expecting everyone to be a fully formed adult and perfect. It's not taking into account the fact that you created your own life when you were 18 years old, the fact that you were independent so young, the fact that you came to a new country and had nothing and you built this all up yourself. By the way, you showed up here and experienced that trauma as a young person at 18, which technically is an adult, but we all know that that's not an adult. Your frontal lobe isn't formed, whatever. So they're criticizing you for decisions that you made as a very young person, having survived a lot of trauma and being alone. And so even if some of the criticisms of oversharing or not having boundaries or whatever are, understandable criticisms, it doesn't take into account the context. It's assuming that you have privilege and experience. And when I say privilege, I don't just mean financial, I mean community and family and everything else that you never had. And so, on these videos that talk about your want for age gap relationships, like, I really liked one that you made that I think is privated now, where you talk about how, like, in therapy, I talked about wanting an age gap relationship. And like, the fact that I'm more friends with my mom than she is a parent necessarily. And like, I love your mom. It's odd to me that she was okay with you leaving at 18 and coming here by yourself, and that you did share all these experiences with her, and she was an emotional support, but she never swooped in. And sure, there's a degree of that that's financially based. She was in Brazil, and like, what she makes in half a year is a plane ticket here one time. But you didn't have that protection, And so being attracted to people that are older and more established and have experience doesn't seem crazy to me. I don't know that we need to debate nature versus nurture in terms of sexual identity and preference. Mm-hmm. And by the way, even in that context, you still were the primary financial support for years. For like 6 years, you financially supported somebody who was older than you. All right, so we bail Eileen out of jail. Then we all go to dinner. Danny and Pam meet us for dinner. It's the weirdest dinner I have ever been to.
It's a bail celebration dinner.
And then Eileen can't leave the state, New York State, because it wasn't totally resolved. She was out on bail. It wasn't over.
She couldn't leave the country, but she could leave the state because we went to LA.
Right. Okay. She couldn't leave the country. So you guys come and stay with me for like a week, and then I'm moving, and it's my birthday.
Oh, bless you.
Because like, this was August, and so my birthday had just happened, and this was August like 10th. My birthday's July 31st. So I had just had my birthday, and I was moving that month, and I had to move by the end of August. So you guys stayed with me for like a week. Then for the last 2 weeks of August, you guys went to LA, and I moved. And then you came back, and I was magically in my new apartment. And as soon as I moved into my new apartment, I was there for a weekend. And then you guys came and stayed in my spare bedroom for like a month. I had never had house guests for that long.
Oh my God. Laura.
And I had only known you for like a week. And it was kind of a magical experience.
Oh my God, Laura, what you did for me, I honestly, I will never forget, because people don't do that for strangers. You know, it's a really rare thing that someone
We
is so
trauma
kind.
bonded, though. We weren't strangers.
No, yeah, but we had just met. And
We had just met.
I'll never forget, you're like such a good person. You
Well, it
really
was
are.
really lovely. Like, I remember one time I was coming home from a really long day of work, and you were like, I hope it's okay. I cleaned the bathroom and made dinner. And I was like, I'm getting a wife. My thoughts on marriage have all changed. It's like I come home and there's like, you don't even eat chicken. And you had made this like chicken pasta dinner and cleaned the bathroom and done all of my laundry.
That's the least I could do. You're putting me off for a month.
It wasn't even a month. It was like the first week. And I was like, I'm in. Well, it's like that meme of like the person that's like hyper independent who's carrying the washing machine up the subway stairs.
Yeah.
That's like so my brand. And so the fact that I got home and like the bathroom was clean, the laundry was done, and there was food that I wanted to eat, I was like,
But seriously, you really are like family to me.
well, we chose each other. This is the thing. I was just explaining to a friend recently. When I think about all of my closest friends, it's all people that I have met in really traumatic times I've been able to show up for, and then they get out of that traumatic time and the friendship equalizes, and it's just a beautiful thing because we've trauma bonded, I've been able to be helpful, and then it's like normal. And that's what happened with us.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, obviously it was a shitty situation, but if I'm...
Now that one's out. We're on the main one. One camera remains.
If anything good came out of that situation, it was our friendship. And to be honest, I would go through that a million times over to have you as a friend.
We also like bonded so significantly over like our dad shit and like everything else. But like, I think, I don't know, you learned a lot through that. And so that's why, so that's how we met. 2 hours later, we met because the first time Julia and Eileen came to New York, Eileen got arrested and I helped Julia bail her out of jail. And then they lived with me for a month. And it was great. There were times I wanted to murder Eileen, but overall it was great. You know, the end of your relationship with Eileen, like, I will never forget the morning that you called me when you had tried to kill yourself.
I don't actually remember it because
you were high. You were still fucked up. But you called me from the hospital. And for the ceramic studio, we have clay deliveries that come. And it's like an 18-wheeler truck that's delivered into a garage storage space, which happened to be my garage under my apartment for a long time. Now I live separately, but like for a long time, it was the garage under my apartment. And so it was snowing. And we had an 18-wheeler of clay being delivered, and I was driving a forklift and like managing that whole situation. I wasn't actually driving the forklift, but there was a forklift that I had ordered, and like our team was there, and we're taking clay off the truck with the forklift. And you called me, and I have a photographic memory, so many of my memories like come with images. And like I was looking down my block, my apartment's on the right. You've been there. Apartment's on the right. Garage is on the right. There's a truck backing up. My team is on the forklift. The guys that I work with who are beautiful fucking humans. And they're lifting the clay out, and I'm on the phone with you, and you're telling me that you tried to kill yourself. And I'm just like sobbing.
Oh, Laura, I'm sorry.
I'm just standing out in the snow, and I'm sobbing, but I'm trying not to let you know, so I'm like muting the phone.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
So that you don't know that I'm sobbing. And then they're looking at me like, I know that clay is really important, but like she's sobbing and that's weird. So like my friends and co-workers know that something's going on, so they kind of leave me alone. And I'm like watching this all happen. I'm like muting and unmuting, and I'm sobbing, and you're like telling me what's going on. I'm just asking if you're okay. And I know that you're not okay, but like in the hospital and like being tended to, and I'm just tears are just like running down my cheeks, and they're like freezing because it's snowing and I'm standing outside, and it's like the tears are free. Anyway,
sorry.
You don't have to apologize. I was worried about you because you're family.
Yes, gosh, I didn't even know I called you.
Yeah.
That's how out of it I was after. I was out of it for a couple of days because of the...
It was the next day. Yeah. So it was right. I guess it must have been based on the time change. It must have been like 2 p.m. your time. So like the night before it had happened, you woke up in the hospital and you called me when you woke up in the hospital and you were telling me what had happened. And I was texting with your mom.
Really? Gosh, I had no idea.
We were worried about you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't expect to cry. Sorry. Obviously, I mishandled it. I should have left the marriage years before and everything, but
there were so many reasons why you didn't. I don't think that you mishandled it. I think that you gave it every possible chance for all of the reasons, because you wanted to give it a chance, because you loved her, then because you were thinking logistically about, you know, your stability, about her stability. Like there were all these different reasons why you waited and waited and waited. But now you know you gave it every possible chance in every possible way.
yeah, I feel like I lost half of my 20s though, like in hindsight. But
Listen, 5 years is not that long in the grand scheme of things.
no.
And realistically, you would have left like what, 2.5 years earlier?
Yeah,
And then you might not have met Keith,
that's true.
who's wonderful.
He's wonderful.
He's so great.
He's really great.
It's so funny because at first, I also thought, which I think some of your followers have, which was like, you were looking for an out when you were with Eileen because it was so hard to be with her. You were just looking for any kind of escape, and Keith was there. It's not real. And I really doubted it. I really did. And then he came to visit. And I was shocked.
Really? What way?
I was genuinely shocked. He wasn't trying to perform for me. He wasn't trying to put on airs. He wasn't weird. He was like a guy who just wanted to have a conversation. He was intelligent and not overly charismatic like Eileen, just like a genuinely cool dude. My facial shielding is non-existent, like I'm sure that when I walked in I was like, like impress me, like figure it out. And he just was like, I'm gonna get us drinks and some food and we can talk. And he told me about his business. As a small business owner, I really respect what he's built. I really respect the way that he approaches it. He talked about his team and his staff in a way that I really appreciated. He talked about you in a way that I really appreciated. It wasn't over the top admiration. It was like he really saw you and appreciated who you were. It wasn't like, oh my God, she's amazing and she's beautiful and she's this. It was like he respected what you had accomplished. It wasn't about controlling you. And even the way that he talked about Eileen, like I was shocked. And I remember calling Jen afterwards because like we had drinks and dinner and we hung out for a while. And you guys went back to the hotel and I was going home. And I called Jen on the way home and I was like, Jen is my like best friend who owns a ceramic studio with me, who also knows Julia, who also met Eileen, who'd been through this whole trajectory. And I remember calling her and I was like, totally not what I expected. Really cool dude, like interesting. I enjoyed talking to him genuinely as a person. I really liked the way that he talked about you. I really liked the way that he was acting. It really changed the way that I saw the whole thing. And when we talked about it afterwards, I was like, listen, be with Keith if you really love him. But I think the biggest question for me was whether or not you were in love with him genuinely. And I think that that was also something that you had to figure out for yourself too.
I struggled a lot with feeling a lot of shame because of him being a man.
Yeah.
It's weird to say that because a lot of people sometimes struggle the other way around, to come out.
No, but like when you're people like us who especially, we both went to all like Catholic high schools, it's so much of a thing to come out and to be openly queer and into women and to make that your identity, and then also to be femme presenting and into women. Like it becomes so much of your identity in your community. And then the fact that you did it also online, like I really understand it. I mean, listen, like my longest relationship was with a man and it was so weird for me. Like it was so weird for me to like come out or come out again or to tell all of my friends, and like it's awkward.
Like, I think many times I even, talking to you and to other friends, I kind of like played it down a bit. Like,
well, you gave caveats.
How, yeah. Yeah.
Well, it was like, oh, I'm into him and we're doing this, but like, it's not really going to be a relationship. We're just hanging out. Or like, he's really queer. And I'm like, you don't have to qualify it. You could just be into him.
Yeah, which I've always been, but I think Yeah, I still struggle with it a little bit because my whole life I just been so queer, and like all my friends are queer, and it's strange, sort of like reverse coming out, weird.
When I was with my ex for so long, it was very strange to be perceived differently
Mm,
because since I had come out so early at like 16 and all my relationships were with women, I never knew what it was like to walk down the street with a guy. And then to see
same,
that in my
yeah.
late 20s and early 30s, I was like, oh my God, I have been discriminated against this whole time. Like, I have been a spectacle this whole time, and I didn't even know. It was almost like I never thought, or I didn't understand the degree to which I had been discriminated against or seen as different. Not even discriminated against, but like seen as different before. I just thought that people were looking at people holding hands or making out on the street, and they weren't. They were looking at women holding hands,
Mm,
making out on the street. And then when I was with a guy and I became suddenly invisible, it was so weird.
yeah, yeah. That's exactly my experience
It's
too.
so strange. It's so strange to all of a sudden have that privilege after never having it before. And it feels uncomfortable.
Feels a bit wrong.
It does feel wrong. It totally feels wrong and uncomfortable.
It almost feels like betraying the community.
It
That's
does.
how I felt. And I felt so guilty about it.
It's such a risk for you in terms of your identity, in terms of your career, and also
It completely ruined my image, but
also in terms of caring for somebody else. Like, we've talked a lot about like dating older people and what that means and how much of a risk that is, like because you're risking your heart more, you're risking your career more, you're risking a lot of things more because you love him genuinely. And I was really surprised to see that, but I can tell that you really do love him.
I do. And so different from all my other relationships because it's like a more stable kind of love. It's not that kind of.
It's not chaotic. It's just somebody that shows up.
Yeah, and it's really strange because at first I didn't realize that was love. I thought that for it to be love, it had to be
chaotic.
Chaotic, yeah.
And you made it chaotic.
At the beginning, for sure. Yeah.
And I think that you were uneasy with the easiness of it. You're like, it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be hard.
Yeah.
It's actually, sometimes it can be easy. I don't think it's supposed to be anything. It can be whatever it ends up being. Anyway, we're going to pub quiz tomorrow, which I keep calling trivia, which is apparently a slur.
Oh, it was so funny because the other day you said, you didn't even say pub trivia. You said bar trivia.
Yeah.
You texted said, oh, we're going to bar trivia the other day. And me and Keith were like, how very American of you.
Yeah, bar trivia is great.
Bar trivia. It's so cute.
But it's pub quiz.
Pub quiz.
So we're going to go to Harrods and hopefully find my dress for the wedding.
Yay!
And if not, I'll just have to go to Bergdorf's in New York. Oh no.
Or we can go to Primark later.
I love it. You think I would fit in something from Primark?
Of course you would.
Really?
Of course you would.
Don't they like stop at like, I don't know, UK size 6 or something?
No. I know because I worked there for a bit. Did you know that?
Has done every job.
I worked on the night shift there for a bit. Unboxing things.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
For some reason in my mind it was Hot Topic.
I wish it was Hot Topic. That would have been a lot cooler.
Okay, so all in sum, this is how we met and how we trauma bonded and why we're family.
Stop crying anymore now.
Yeah, you have like one wing left. But yeah, no, this is how we met and how we trauma bonded and why we're family forever and why I'm never letting you go and why I'm going to be in your wedding in September.
Oh, I love you so much.
I love you too.
Like literally, like please you and my mom and Keith are the people I love the most. And Beverly.
I'm going to force you on the podcast just to never make me get another phone call like that.
I promise. I honestly, yeah, I've promised my mom
That's what's going to make me cry.
Because I felt so guilty after because I didn't actually think anybody would care. So
You genuinely didn't think anybody would care?
Yeah, I thought nobody would notice even. So I felt very guilty after because you and my mom were quite upset. So
no shit.
So I felt bad after, but like, yeah, but before I didn't.
By the way, not just us, like all of our friends in New York.
Really? No, I'm crying again. Shit.
Everybody was quite upset. You were only there for 6 months, but like also you visited a bunch other and like you have family there. You fucking did Lucy's whole makeover.
Oh, Lucy, she's so cute.
Lucy is my goddaughter who is now 17, who is like 13 when they met, and she did Lucy's makeover. And that's like part of what got Lucy into makeup, and now she like does it all.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so sweet. Oh my god. I don't want to end it on a sad note, but I literally can't stop crying. I have so much mascara in my eyeballs.
Yeah, I've made you cry it all out.
But I needed it. Because I've been feeling that for years. I haven't truly explained things properly.
Yeah, I have never been on the pod or the channel
You are literally
really before.
So good. You should do your own. Much better than
There have
me.
definitely been like 4 different times where I've been like, Julia, I might have you edit a vlog if I maybe do it. And then I record approximately 3.5 minutes of footage and I'm like,
You are so good. You're better
I
than
can't.
Literally everybody.
I can't. I'm really good at telling people what to say. I'm not great at saying it for myself.
You just said a bunch of things really well.
About you.
That's true. It's a bit harder when you're talking about yourself.
Can't talk about myself. Can't do it.
Oh God. Okay. I think we need to say goodbye.
Yeah, we're gonna say goodbye.
Laura, can I say where you're going tonight? No. Okay, I won't say it.
Subscribe, like this video, and subscribe.
That's what I need. We don't need to tell them everything.
We don't need to tell them. Like this video, subscribe, follow Julia on Instagram at Julia Zelg.
Spotify.
Oh yeah, listen to her music. It's really fucking good.
Thank you.
Watch the music videos, okay? Even the old ones, they're so fun to see now. I'm like, oh my God, you're such a baby looking at you in the club. The club.
I want to take you to the gay clubs in London, but I don't think we'll have time this time around.
Probably not this time around, but maybe next time. We're going to have a really fun bachelorette experience. It's going to be really adult. It's going to involve dinner. Well, that's a lie.
What?
I was like, my version of party is going to a really nice dinner, but that's not true. My version of party is drugs and dancing very late. She's like, we can do that.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Laura, for being the best friend anyone could have.
Oh, I love you. I love you. Family.
Oh, literally.
I've literally gone in front of the camera for you. You know we're related now.
Oh, I love you so much. Okay.
What's the sign off?
Have a very, very lovely day.
Have a very, very lovely day. Wait, we have to do it again.
No, it's good like that. It's funny.
Have a very, very lovely day. Mwah. Mwah.